Well, hello everyone. This is the English version of the tutorial on how I shade my drawings for those friends that I have that do not speak Spanish. This example I'm doing it with another drawing of mine that I just started from my OC Adonai. So I shaded three important parts of this drawing, which are the skin, the vest, and the shirt that he's wearing. I'm going to be explaining the same things that I explained in the Spanish video, but this time in English. So, when I shade, I usually go for thick blocks of color for the shading part, because I like them to pop out and to make the picture pop out even more. So these things that we're seeing, these blocks of color, these are the blocks that I'm talking about. I'm going to be referring to the shading as blocks for the rest of the video. What you want is that you grab your main color and then you tone it down, like you make it darker and then you make it a little bit redder if you're watching here my color palette. Why is that? Because I tend to see people that shade with just a darker version of the color. And although it looks fine in some cases, for example, in skin, it doesn't make it look like the character is alive. So it's a little bit bland, if you dare you say. Um, yeah, so that's the way I choose the color for my shading. But if I want the shading to look more detailed, like I'll just add a gradient of color, which I will just use the color that I already used for shading and make it even darker and even redder, like this, so that it looks more profound. It's important to keep in mind that when you're shading a drawing, you have to know where the light source is coming. In this case, in this drawing, the light source is coming from my upper left side. So the shading should be looking the other way, the down right side of the drawing. Um, with this, you know where to place the shading. It doesn't look like it's all over the place. The gradient, you can make it look stronger or weaker depending on how you like the drawing. I like my shading a little bit strong, and if I want to add yet another layer of shading, I will just grab a redder color, darker, and just shade little bits of his neck here and here, and maybe under his eye and under the nose. You don't have to exaggerate with how many layers of shading you add to a drawing. It can be modest. It depends on you, really. I like them when they have a lot of detail in their shading because, I don't know, looks more interesting to me. Before blending this with the main color, you can maybe change the opacity of the whole shading itself. I will just tone it down a little bit here and just leave it at 93 and blend it with the color below. Same goes for the shirt and for the vest. It is important though to know that the vest and the shirt and the skin have different materials, right? They're made of different things, so you want them to look accordingly. You're not going to shade the whole thing the same. In this case, for the skin, I like to add a little bits of, well, like shine, you know? So I just grab a paler color, maybe less redder, and I just go and add a shade of glow, I think it's called. Let's see. And this is to make the drawing pop out even more. So it shows that the light source is actually quite strong, right? Just bits of blocks of light to make this drawing the more brighter, like this. This example is special for the skin because skin tends to be a bit oily. So you will want it to look like this, like brighting this way. It will not be the same with the vest that's made of blue jean. For the vest though, I'm going to use the same technique of the gradient that I used with the skin. So I'll just grab the color that I had for the shade, which is much more darker in value and in hue. So I'm just going to grab this shade and I'm going to make it even more purple and darker, less gray. And I'm just going to cross the gradient in opposite of the light source, which is right here. I'm just going to do this, maybe a little bit more here. That's it. And I just tone it down a little bit so it doesn't look too harsh. I have another technique though, which is not applying the gradient to the shade, which you can see right here, but rather to apply it to the whole color itself. For that, what I do is that I disappear the shade and the line art, and I select the parts of color which are blue. I return the line art, and I make a new layer. And here's where we're going to make the gradient. Bah. I'm going to deselect this, and you see that the whole shirt has the gradient and also the shading too. But that color is way too strong and the shading doesn't look like shading anymore. What we want is to tone it down. So the gradient now applies to the color and to the shading, which can be appropriate for any drawing. This is not a technique that I explained in the Spanish video, but it was worth mentioning here. I'm just going to blend the gradient with the color and then the vest on top of that. Okay. And last, we've got the shirt. Same technique. We add the gradient to the shading part. We just make it redder, darker, opposing again the light source. In this case, you can see that my shading is way too divided to apply the grading equally. So what I do is that I select one part of the shading, add the gradient. Let's add a little more. And then we grab the other part of the shading, add the gradient, and then we have both parts shaded with gradient. I'm going to leave them at that opacity, and then I'm just going to blend that into the drawing. Maybe because this is a blue jean color, you can add just a little bit of light, but not too bright, because blue jean is not a material that shines too much with the sun or with any kind of light source. So I'm just going to apply a little bit here and on every edge that might, have shine, like this pocket, the way here and here. And I'm going to leave the shirt like that because this special material, which is lona, it's a material that we use a lot in Colombia. It doesn't really shine that much. It can be shaded though, so I am not going to brighten this up. If you like your drawing to have a brighter lighting and less shading, I'd recommend doing the same technique that we did with the gradient and the other layers of shading, but applying it to the lighting instead and leaving the shading a lot more bland. I am going to be coloring these other beats off camera, but this would be all for that tutorial. If you'd like me to maybe introduce you to other techniques that I apply in my drawings, feel free to ask me about it. I will probably do a video making it. Maybe I'll do like this dynamic and just do a video in Spanish and a video in English so that all my friends can have access to this valuable information. And yeah, that would be all for that video. And thanks for watching.